Hi students, this video is a lecture on Shakespeare's Hamlet, especially focusing on a scene-wise analysis of the play. When we think of the dramatist William Shakespeare, he was considered as not for an age but for all ages. The same is true in the case of his drama Hamlet as well. Hamlet is also a timeless classic that will continue to enchant Shakespearean literature lovers for decades to come. Through the play, he shows that human beings are subject to desires they can't control, fates they can't avoid, and fears that they cannot inhibit. We see a reflection of nature, general human nature, an interweaving of good and evil, a mingling of kind and cruel. Even if humanity gets affected by changes, by sophistication in the process of evolution, these general human traits will remain for long. And that is why the plays of Shakespeare still appeal to readers belonging to the contemporary generation because he simply talks about humans, the thoughts of humans, the passions of humans, the emotion of humans, which is again timeless. So, with that, let's move on to a discussion of the play. First, the characters. Now, this is the list of major and minor characters in Hamlet. First, we have the protagonist, Prince Hamlet. He is the son of the late king and Queen Gertrude. He is the nephew as well as the stepson to King Claudius. Ghost. It is the ghost of the dead king of Denmark, Hamlet. He is Prince Hamlet's father as well as the brother of the new king, Claudius, and the husband of Gertrude. Claudius. Claudius is the brother of King Hamlet. He is now the king of Denmark. He is the new husband of Queen Gertrude and Prince Hamlet's stepfather. Gertrude. Gertrude is Prince Hamlet's mother. She is the widow of the former king. Now she is the wife of Claudius, the new king. Then we have Horatio, Prince Hamlet's friend and confidant. He was the fellow student of Hamlet at Wittenberg. Polonius is King Claudius' advisor. He is the father of Leatrice and Ophelia. Ophelia is also the beloved of Hamlet. Next, we have Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, the fellow students of Hamlet at Wittenberg. Bernardo, Francisco, Marcellus. They are sentinels, officers in King of Denmark's army. Rinaldo. Rinaldo is Polonius' servant. Voltimand and Cornelius. They are messengers sent by Claudius to the king of Norway. Osric. Osric is a messenger in the court. Then we have a few players. They are actually actors who travel around the city to perform drama. Grave diggers. They are two rustics or two clowns who bring a comic relief in the play. We have a priest. He is a doctor of divinity. He is a church official. Next is Fortinbras. He's the Prince of Norway, whose father was killed by Hamlet's father. Next, you have an ambassador who comes from England to report a news to Claudius. So, this is the list of major and minor characters in the play. The opening scene of Hamlet, Act 1, Scene 1, begins on a dark winter night. The scene takes place outside Elsinore Castle in Denmark. An officer named Bernardo comes to relieve the night watch soldier Francisco. In the heavy darkness, the men cannot see each other. Bernardo hears a footstep near him and he cries, "Who's there?" Now, this is the opening line of the play. Who's there? The opening line sets the mood of the play. It gives a sense of the unknown, doubt, and caution. This acts as a theme throughout the play, the theme of uncertainty and tension. Now, cold, tired, and apprehensive from his many hours of guarding the castle, Francisco thanks Bernardo and prepares to go home. And we understand the time of action from the conversation between these guards. They say, "'Tis now struck 12. Get thee to bed, Francisco." And he thanks him. "For this much relief, much thanks. 'Tis bitter cold, and I am sick at heart." Now, shortly after that, Bernardo is joined by Marcellus, another watchman, who is also accompanied by Horatio, a friend of Prince Hamlet. Enter Horatio and Marcellus. They both greet Francisco. They exchange some greetings. And then Marcellus asks that $1,000,000 question. "What? Has this thing appeared again tonight?" Marcellus asks Bernardo if the thing has walked again, if the thing has come again, and it sparks curiosity in the viewers. And they start their discussion about that thing at large. Bernardo says, "I have seen nothing." Marcellus tells Bernardo that he has invited Horatio to see the ghost himself, because when he told Horatio about the appearance of that thing, Horatio dismissed it as a figment of their imagination. He said, "'Tis but a fantasy." And then he tells us, he divulges more and more information about that thing. He tells, "This dreaded sight, twice seen of you. Therefore, I have entreated him along with us to watch the minute of this night, that if again this apparition come, he may approve our eyes and speak to it." So we come to understand that that thing appeared twice. They have seen it twice. Okay? And it has appeared in the minute of this night. It has appeared recently at the same time at night. And he says, "It is an apparition." Okay? It is an apparition. And I have asked Horatio to come along with us to keep watch and to see that apparition if it appears for himself. At least then he will believe us. Marcellus tells that it is a dreaded sight. That means it invokes fear. So it conjures up a sense of uneasiness, a sense of fear and foreboding. Horatio still doubts the ghost, and its appearance. But then he sits down to listen to Bernardo, who retells the tale of the ghost's previous visitation. And Bernardo starts describing last night of all, when yond same star that's westward from the pole hath made his course illuminate that part of heaven, where now it burns, Marcellus and myself, the bell then beating one. Now, before Bernardo can say much, something happens. He tells that at the same time, when the bell struck one at midnight, when the stars in the sky were in the same position as of now, that apparition came. So, just as he was describing, the ghost appears. These men are shocked, they're surprised. Bernardo tells he looks like the dead king. He comes in the same figure like the king that's dead. They entreat Horatio to talk to the ghost. Even the skeptical Horatio, the man of logical thinking, even he was dumbfounded. He says it narrows me with fear and wonder. So, gathering all courage, he speaks to the ghost. He asks the ghost, together with the fair and warlike form in which the majesty of buried Denmark did sometime march, what art thou that usurp this time of night? Who are you? You look exactly like the dead king of Denmark. Why are you here at this point of night? What is the purpose of your visit? But the ghost just dissolves into the night. It doesn't utter a word, it doesn't speak, it just vanishes. The Elizabethans believed that ghosts will communicate only to that person to whom a message was intended to be communicated. So, not seeing that the person he wants to communicate, the ghost just leaves, leaving Horatio and the soldiers shaken and puzzled. And their dialogues reveal their fear and confusion, but it serves as a theatrical purpose as well. It helps the audience to understand and accept the appearance of the ghost. So now Bernardo asks Horatio, "How now, Horatio? You tremble and look pale. Is not this something more than fantasy? What do you think on it? Do you now believe that this is not a figment of our imagination? Truly, really, the ghost appeared." And he replies, "Before my God, I might not disbelieve without the sensible and true avouch of mine own eyes. So if I had not seen it truly, I would never ever have believed it. But now I'm shocked." Marcellus cannot contain his curiosity. He's asking, "Is it not like the king?" Horatio replies, "As thou art to thyself, such was the very armour he had on when he the ambitious Norway combated. So frowned he once when in angry pall he smote the sledded bullocks on the ice. 'Tis strange." So he says he looks very much like the king. His physical appearances, his facial expression, tip to toe. He looks like the dead king Hamlet. Yes, twice before and jump at this dead hour with martial stock hath he gone by our watch. So Horatio says, "In what particular thought to work I know not, but in the gross and scope of my opinion, this bodes some strange eruption to the state." He says, "I cannot explain precisely, but I feel something bad is going to happen to our country, Denmark." The appearance of the ghost forebodes some danger to our land. So now Marcellus asks Horatio, can you just explain what is happening to our country? Can you sit down and tell me, he that knows, why this same strict and most observant watch so nightly toils the subject of the land, and why such daily cast of brazen cannon and foreign mart for implements of war? Why such impress of shipwrights, whose sore task does not divide the Sunday from the week? What might be toward that? This speedy haste doth make the night join to labour with the day. Who is it that can inform me? So he's asking, why are we preparing as if we are going to go for a war? There is 24 into 7 watch. The soldiers are not to given a leave even on Sunday. And to this, Horatio describes the affairs of the state between Denmark and Norway. Before the deaths of King Hamlet and the King Fortinbras of Norway, there ensued a fight between them, and in that fight, King Hamlet killed King Fortinbras. He also took hold of the lands in some parts of Norway. So now Prince Fortinbras, the son of the King of Norway, is preparing to take revenge. Chances are that any time Denmark may be attacked, and that is the reason why we are keeping a staunch security. Horatio says, that can I. At least the whisper goes on. Our last king, whose image even but now appeared to us, was, as you know, by Fortinbras of Norway, thereto pricked on by a most emulate pride, dared to the combat, in which our valiant Hamlet, for so this side of our known world esteemed him, did slay this Fortinbras, who, by a sealed compact, well ratified by law and heraldry, did forfeit with his life all those his lands which he stood seized of to the conqueror, against the which a mighty competent was gauged by our king, which had returned to the inheritance of Fortinbras, had he been vanquisher, as by the same covenant and carriage of the article designed, his fell to Hamlet. Now, sir, young Fortinbras, of unimproved metal, hot and full, hath in the skirts of Norway here and there shacked up a list of lawless resolutes for food and diet to some enterprise that hath a stomach in it, which is no other, as it doth well appear unto our state, but to recover of us by strong hand and terms compulsatory those forced lands so by his father lost. And this, I take it, is the main motive of our preparations, the source of this watch, and the chief head of this post haste and romage in the land. Horatio's explanation provides a logical and possible explanation. Young Fortinbras wants to avenge the death of his father, who was killed in a battle by the dead king Hamlet. And this is here we have the first mention of revenge in the play. The play comes under the convention of revenge tragedies. In this play, three families are ultimately involved with revenge: Fortinbras for his father, Hamlet for his father, and Leatrice for his father and sister. And revenge tragedies were among the most popular plays in England and Europe during the 16th and 17th centuries. Like horror or slasher movies today, there was a special liking among the public for revenge tragedies. So Bernardo again gets curious. He asks, Can it be the reason for the appearance of the ghost? The ghost may be an omen or a sign of trouble for Denmark. It seems possible, and the anxiety increases. Nobody knows the true reason for the appearance of that apparition. The people of that time believed that spirits usually mean trouble. They believe that this particular spirit may either be the ghost of the dead king or it can be an evil spirit disguised as the king. Anyhow, it is not expected to be a positive symbol. For instance, Horatio refers to the death of Caesar, which occurred at a time when there were strange occurrences in the universe. There were many bad omens, owls during daytime, men walking through fire, dead bodies screaming and screeching through the streets. So he says, a mote it is to trouble the mind's eye. In the most high and palmy state of Rome, a little before the mightiest Julius fell, the graves stood tenantless, and the sheeted dead did squeak and gibber in the Roman streets. As stars with trains of fire and dews of blood, disasters in the sun, and the moist star upon whose influence Neptune's empire stands, was sick almost to doomsday with eclipse, and even the like precursors of fierce events, as harbingers preceding still the fates and prologue to the omen coming on, have heaven and earth together demonstrated unto our clementures and countrymen. But soft, behold, lo, where it comes again. So now, without warning, the ghost reappears. Horatio is more deferential and respectful this time. He begs the spirit to speak to him, but once again it departs without a response. The soldiers try to stop it with their weapons, but the ghost just vanishes. Horatio speaks to the ghost. Stay, illusion. If thou hast any sound or use of voice, speak to me. If there be any good thing to be done, that may to thee do ease and grace to me, speak to me. The cock crows. If thou art privy to the country's fate, which happily foreknowing may avoid, O speak. O, if thou hast abhorred in thy life extorted treasure in the womb of earth, for which they say, you spirits of walk in death, speak of it. Stay and speak. Stop it, Marcellus. Marcellus, shall I strike at it with my partisan? Horatio, do, if it will not stand. 'Tis here, 'tis here, 'tis gone. Exit ghost. We do it wrong, being so majestical, to offer it the show of violence, for it is, as the air, invulnerable, and our vain blows malicious mockery. The men are reminded that nothing earthly can interfere with it. They are awed and amazed this time, overwhelmed in the presence of the supernatural, and their language reflects the spiritual mood. It was then Bernardo who tells an important point. He says it was about to speak, but just then the cock crew. Horatio also seems to have noted that. He says, yes, and it started like a guilty thing upon a fearful summons. I have heard the cock, that is, the trumpet to the morn, doth with his lofty and shrill sounding throat awake the god of the day. And at this warning, whether in sea or fire, in earth or air, the extravagant and erring spirit heeds to his confine, and of the truth herein, this present object made probation. Horatio says, yes, I also have heard of it. The crowing of the cock. It is the trumpet to the morn, It is the awakening call for the gods of the day. And when the cock crows, the gods awaken, and the evil spirits just hide to their confines. And so, Horatio says, so have I heard, and do in part believe it. Now, this is the most perfect line of blank verse. Now, towards the end of the scene, we see that the language of the play is transformed from the talk of weary soldiers, clipped lines, and hurried questions to an almost lyrical, musical movement. That heightened grip of tension is now let loose. It is loosened. And then he tells, let's part for now. Break we our watch up, and by my advice, let us impart what we have seen tonight unto young Hamlet. For upon my life, this spirit dumb to us, will speak to him. Horatio decides to tell Hamlet about this incident, and he's pretty confident that this spirit who was dumb to us will definitely speak to Hamlet. So, with that, the scene ends. And it is towards the end of this scene that we are introduced to the play's protagonist. We hear about him, and altogether, this opening scene presents a dramatic, foreboding atmosphere. The viewer is able to glean important insights about the state of affairs. Shakespeare has been completely successful in intensifying the tension and the conflict in the play very consistently, because as the scene progresses, we are introduced to a thing. Then we come to know that it is an apparition, and then we are given more details that it resembles the king that's dead. The tension even intensifies when it remains silent, when it just talks away. Horatio's prophetic words are also a clue to the upcoming series of disasters going to hit Denmark. He says, this bodes some strange eruption to the state. The very first line in the play, who's there? And Francisco's comment, I'm sick at heart. From all these, we understand in the opening scene itself that all is not well in this place. And it is good to note that even though Renaissance was a cultural movement that promoted learning, awakening, intellectuality, scholarship, etc., it had not changed superstitious ideas among the general public. See, Horatio is a scholar and a friend of the prince. The guards value his judgment. They believe that the ghost will speak to him. And we have to note that Shakespeare used figurative language to create that mood, that theme of uncertainty, fear, and tension. Whereas in modern theatre or cinema, one would use visual effects for this purpose. It was through the language that the people were made to believe about all these things, because the plays were mostly performed in daylight. So when the characters say that it is night, it is midnight, it is cold and freezing, the audience had to suspend their disbelief. They had to believe what the characters speak. So this is achieved through that figurative language that Shakespeare used. That is the eminence of this playwright. Now, as the play progresses, we will meet several characters who become foils to Hamlet. Fortinbras is one among them. He is also a young man whose father has been defeated by a foe and who is obliged to avenge that father's death and reclaim the conquered properties. Similarly, in the very first scene itself, an important thematic thread is passed on. That is, the passing of the torch from old to young. It inevitably carries the duty of the young to live up to their elders' expectations. So, it is the duty of the son to avenge any wrongs that has been done to their fathers. A son may obey a father's instruction, no matter how unreasonable the directive may seem, even if it necessitates murder, war, or mayhem. And Horatio explains that young Fortinbras is bent on avenging his father's defeat. Another important theme is that of the superstitious beliefs during the Elizabethan period. Even Horatio's fear of the ghost mirrors the prevailing attitude towards witches and ghosts among Elizabethans. Shakespeare's contemporaries, they believed in ghosts. Ghosts were believed to be agents of an afterlife. A ghost can be an angel or devil according to Shakespearean sensibility. And according to the religious precepts of the time, anyone seeing a ghost must identify the ghost's purpose and form. A ghost can just be a hallucination, or it can be a restless spirit which has returned to perform a deed left undone during the course of its life. It can be a spectre seen as a prediction or warning sent by God. It can be a spirit returned by divine permission, or it can be a devil disguised as a dead person. And the characters that we meet in the opening scene, they test each of these possibilities. Altogether, the 181 lines in the opening scene can be considered as the most effective of all opening scenes by Shakespeare. It introduces us to the theme that Elsinore is itself a person where impending war and disaster are inevitable. It also informs us that forces beyond human control are threatening the hope and happiness and well being of Denmark. So, this scene sets the mood of the play.